Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, and welcome back to another episode of How to Build. This is a series where I show you guys some of my creations in For Honor and teach you guys how to build them. Some of these characters are legends, some of them don't have legends yet, but they do have stories in my head, and some of them are characters from the campaign itself. Today we're going to be talking about one of the original groups or militia that I've created within the world of For Honor, known as the Keepers. Now, who are the Keepers? They are a sacred order formed within the Mire that was created around the time of the drought that hit Heathmore in the past. If y'all remember when the Kyotian came to For Honor, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, like the Kyotian, they recognized that the Draconite of Horkos and Chimera was being mined without restraint and used without restriction, causing the imbalance in the natural world, as Draconite is not a substance meant to be abused. So they were formed as a militia to help undermine the efforts of both factions to gather Draconite, basically doing little hit and runs and sabotage episodes on both Horkos and Chimera. Even after the drought, the militia remained, reestablishing itself as a sort of druidic and sacred order with the purpose of maintaining nature's balance and preservation. Now, understand this, they're not a bunch of crazy tree huggers that hate humanity, as you often see in a lot of movies and TV shows these days. No, they do not loathe humanity. In fact, they're not against civilization expanding and growing. They get the purpose for humanity to survive, but they will oppose the abuse of nature and Draconite and any other aspect of nature's bounty meant to be respected. They will not suffer imbalance again, as a lot of its members were people who suffered at the hands of the drought and suffered at the hands of Draconite and suffered at the hands of a meaningless war over a resource that should never have been abused in the first place. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some of these characters with you guys, and some of them you will recognize as characters you've seen before. So let's not waste any time and get right into the first one, starting off with Talia. Now, you guys should recognize this. I did how to build on her already, but to go a little bit more into it, she is kind of my version of a druid, and I really like the way we created Shaman to be like this sort of bestial, savage girl. The whole idea that I have with Talia is I wanted her to be more of a child, not like Nibbles, who was raised in the wild. She wasn't initially raised in the wild, but she came to love the wild because of her exposure to it, and so it made perfect sense that she would become more of a druidic character. If you want to know how to build her, she has not changed at all since the how to build video I made with her, so we're going to go past her, but know that Talia is a member of the Keepers, and honestly, she's one of my favorite Shaman builds I've ever made, and that includes with Nibbles. I love Nibbles' story more, but this was a great build. I think that this design is outstanding. All right, so let's move on to the next one. The next one is a Shugoki. You should have seen him in my recent Shugoki video. This is Sato Haruki. Sato Haruki. Now, Sato Haruki's story is kind of simple, actually. Remember I said earlier that this took place during the drought. When the drought hit his village in the Mire, he lost everything. He lost his father, who was a fisherman and couldn't go out onto the river to get fish, so his father ended up dying, committing seppuku actually, because he couldn't provide for his family. His mother tried to raise him, but she ended up starving herself to get food for him, and so he was basically out of options. He joined the samurai, the military arm, to try to make a living, but even they were struggling to pay any dividends or dues, and so when the drought was at its peak, he discovered the Keepers, or what was going to become the Keepers, and they revealed to him that a lot of this was being caused by the abuse of Draconite. So he left home and left the Mire entirely and joined up with this militia to try to stop the abuse of Draconite, hoping things would get fixed. And lo and behold, they did get fixed. So he goes home to go see his mom and say, hey, everything should be okay, only to find out that his mom had died as well. He didn't know how, he didn't know why, because he couldn't find her body, but when he returned to his home, the people in the village said she was dead. Some said she was killed by bandits, some said that she left looking for him, some said that she just died of thirst and starvation. He doesn't know and he doesn't care. As far as he's concerned, it was the abuse of Draconite that led to her death, so now he fights alongside the Keepers to keep nature safe and so that this will never happen to anyone else again. Here's how you build them. So, you need the Ryutora helm, Inugami chest, and Inugami arms. For the weapon, you need the Ryusaku head, Ryusaku handle, and Ryusaku pommel. So, pretty simple. You're going to go with everything for Inugami except the head. You're going to want the Ryutora, and then just a full Ryusaku weapon. So that is how you make him look like this. Let's move on to the traits. Default 1, obviously, and you're going to go with the default skin tone. You don't really need to go with any others. I guess you could go for 1 or 2 if you really wanted to, but default is fine. For the chest, you go with the Furious Howl 1 paint pattern, which you get from the Raining Inferno mask outfit. Raining Inferno mask outfit, okay? And you're gonna want the Primal Anger 4 from the same mask outfit, because what our boy Haruki is trying to go for is almost like a forest demon. He's going like this vicious, powerful, and vengeful forest demon. And so he's trying to give off that aura, okay? For the ornament, you want the coiffed skulls, which you get from the Death Blossom's elite outfit. Gives kind of this crown look that I really like. For the material, I went with black, which you get at Reputation 7 level 20. No need for overrides on this one. For the left shoulder, we went with the Furious Howl Tool, Raining Inferno Mask outfit, and the Bestial Call 3 from the Juboku Mythic outfit. So that is at a mask outfit and a mythic outfit. I know it's going to cost a pretty penny to get all this, but you know, it's what it is. And then for the right shoulder, no paint pattern, no symbol, but you want the Wisdom and Strength embossing, which you get at Reputation 3, level 20. I like the idea that it's wisdom and strength. He has strength as a Shugoki, but he's also wise enough to know how to use that strength. So, for the back, you want the flower sides paint pattern, which you get from the Death Blossom's elite outfit, and you want the Triple Storms symbol, which you get in an outfit at Reputation 22. And then finally for the standards, you want the Peace and Serenity 2 paint pattern, which you get from the 7 Weapons Master Event Pass, which came out with Sohei. And then you want the Woeful Lady embossing. I threw that in because honestly, look at the way the paint pattern and the embossing work. It looks very illusionary, and I really think it just fits. And yeah, I know it fits more in line with the current season, but I don't know. Maybe that's his image of his own mother. You know, it could be his own mother on his standard there, like basically showing his reverence to her. So hey, you know, could be something like that. For the paint pattern, you want the Deep Forest paint pattern, which you get from Juboku Mythic outfit. You want the Juboku Mythic outfit to get the Deep Forest paint pattern. Okay? That is how you make him look like this absolute unit. All right, now for the feats and everything else. I go with Throw Farther, Short-Tempered, Longbow, and Staggering Blow. And the reason why is just because I think that they fit more in line with its personality. A lot of strength for the Throw Farther and Short-Tempered and Staggering Blow. The Longbow so that he can be alongside the Druidic group themselves. For the executions, I went with Kinjite. Let's Wrestle. Smashing Success. And Nebrio Kakeru. Now you'll notice that a lot of these executions aren't necessarily very nature themed, but that's because he's not exactly druidic and he's not learning any of these cool abilities or powers that would help him protect nature with him. It's just strength of arm. That's all he believes in, the strength of arm. For emotes, I went with paired head to head and recognition. And then for combat, My House and Sumo. Pretty simple. For signature, I went with Joijin. Although I would be totally okay with you went with That's the T too. And then for effects, I meant to turn these off. I meant to turn that off. I had it on Kagotuchi's Resplendence, but I had it turned off. I'm going to get him Mystical Aura once I get the steel for it. I do not have enough steel right now, so once I get the steel, which hopefully will be soon, I will get Mystical Aura for him. All right, and that is how you make Sato Haruki. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys like this design, if you like the setup, and we'll move on to the next one. Next up, we have a Zhongjun meet Shu Baosin. Shu Baosin. Now, Shu Baosin is actually kind of interesting when I was thinking up his story. It's not much, and it's not even all that complicated, but I do believe it's interesting. He was a member of the Wulin with his own militia force. Think kind of like the Blue Dragon Tan Qilong. But unlike Tan Qilong, who was actually very well regarded and respected by the Emperor and was given a lot of prestige, Shu Baosin was not given that much prestige. He was not as well looked upon because, honestly, his tactics were unconventional, and he did everything everything he could to essentially get a victory at any cost, and some saw him as reckless for that. After one battle that he had where he basically made a big gamble and lost the gamble, he ended up by himself with only a few scattered remnants of his men, and those men tried to mutiny him and they left him for dead. So basically he was wandering on his own through the wilds, no men, heavily injured, left to die, nowhere else to go, and he's having to think back on his life and think, what all did I do wrong? How did I mess up this royally? And that's when the drought hits, and when the drought hits, everything goes to hell for him. He just doesn't have anywhere to go. He has no men to fall back on. He has an empire he can't return to, and nature itself is now turning against him. He ends up getting found by the keepers, or what they were at the time, and taken in by them. They have no idea who he is. They have no idea of his record. And he even asked them, do you know who I am and who I serve? And they pointed out, it doesn't matter to us. We're here to stop Horkos and Chimera from doing what they're doing. And seeing that they didn't judge him for his past or his abilities like so many others in the Wulan did, he decided, well, you know what? I owe you a big one. I'll help you out in a few battles. And he actually saw some success because these people weren't looking for prestige. They weren't looking for rank ups. They weren't looking for... Sorry, my throat's still bothering me. They weren't looking for advancement through him. They just wanted to do something right and fight with him, and they were willing to take extreme measures like he was, although he was a little bit more reserved now after learning his lesson with his former men. So now he has decided to commit himself fully to the Keepers and serves as one of their tacticians. So let's talk about how to build him. You need a Chuang Tong helm, Chong Ming chest, and Chuang Tong arms. Then for the weapon, you need the Sentry blade, Sele shaft, and Adept spike. That is how you make him look like this. All right, moving on. For the traits, default 1, default skin tone. For the chest, I went with Luxury 4 paint pattern, which you get a Reputation 19 level 8. I went with Deceitful Spirit, which you unlock from the Year 7 Season 2 Battle Pass. So if you played Year 7 Season 2, you should have that. And then for the ornament, none. Pretty simple, no ornament. For the material, gold. Gold goes very well with this green coloring, which we're going to talk about in a minute. For the left arm, I went with Fence 4, and the symbol is Shrine 2. So Fence 4, Shrine 2. For the right arm, no paint pattern, no symbol, but I went with the Sharp Tangles 1 embossing. Gives a nice little shine. For the back, I went with Banderole 3. Banderole 3, which you get from Reputation 14 level 6. No symbol, no embossing. For the standard, no paint pattern, but I went with the Shrine 5 symbol. Reputation 1 level 14 symbol, pretty easy to get. And now for the color scheme, I went with Sylvan Moss, which you got from Year 4 Season 3 Battle Pass. So Sylvan Moss is the one you want for old Zhang Jun here. If you do not have access to Sylvan Moss, you can use Iron Legion. It just does not look nearly as good. So Sylvan Moss is what you want. All right, now abilities. I went with Deadly, Inspire, Soothing Mist, and Fiery Barrage. All of these I thought fit well for his character. Deadly, because of his long-time experience as a warrior. Inspire, he is a Zhang Jun, even if he has unconventional tactics and he doesn't see success all the time. People still look up to him, and he's not a bad general. He just makes decisions that other people question a lot. Soothing Mist, he cares about his soldiers in his own way, and he wants to make sure they can keep fighting. And Fiery Barrage, a great feat to help control and basically crowd control his enemies. For executions, I went with Be Quiet, Shifu's Punishment, Sylvan Detachment, and Sylvan Metamorphosis. He's learned a few tricks from the Druids. I'll go ahead and say this. If you're never satisfied with an execution that you see in the list, if you have Sylvan Metamorphosis, which you should have gotten from the Year 4 Season 3 Battle Pass, give it to them. It's a pretty good one to give to this to the Keeper's Order. Emotes, My Pleasure, and Eye on You, and Your Grave, Armed and Ready. Pretty simple stuff. For signature, I went with Aged Ginger. I just think that looks good. For the effects, I would like to give Mystical Aura, but again, I'm limited on steel, so if you can get this, give it to them. I used Beacon of Peace for his idol, just because he is now a beacon of peace, and he's fighting for something totally different than just the forces of the Wulin. He's fighting for something beyond just the Emperor, and I thought that would fit. And that is Shu Baosin. What do you guys think? Do you like him? Do you like the design? Do you like the story? Let me know what you think down in the comment section. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let's move on. This next one is one you've seen in another video, but we haven't gotten the chance to talk about him. Meet Ocelotl, the hero, as he is often called. Now, this guy I had a little bit of trouble coming up with the overall lore, but I knew that I wanted him to be part of the Keepers. When you think about the Ocelot, you think that a lot of them care a great deal about nature and the natural world, and you wouldn't be wrong about that. The vast majority of them do, but they care about it in their own way, and the way I look at it, the Ocelot are under the opinion that no one understands the natural world the way they do. They have had a much closer connection to the jungles and to life more so than others. But Ocelotl believes that everyone has a stake in the natural world. Everyone has a part to play. Now, he showed up in Heathmoor long after the drought happened, but when he discovered the Keepers, he felt like they were kindred spirits. They were people in Heathmoor who understood the need to protect and preserve the natural world. Now, he doesn't go into all the druidic stuff that they do. He's not quite as into that as they are. That's not really his thing, but he does believe that they are on the right path and trying to keep the natural world safe. And since the Ocelot can't go home, he figures, well, I might as well stay and keep fighting alongside them. So let's talk about how you build them. Pretty simple, actually. You want with the Eminent Helm, Eminent Chest, and Eminent Arms. And you want the Conquistador's End Club, Conquistador's End Head, and Conquistador's End Shaft. Pretty simple on the build. Let's talk about the rest. For traits, default 1, skin color. I went with the third from light, so 1, 2, 3. So you want that third from light. It gives it a nice mocha color that I think looks really good. For the chest, no chest pattern because you got that nice little gold sheen in the middle of the abs, which I think looks fine. You don't need to change that. For the ornament, I went with the Majestic Wanderer because this guy is a wanderer. He's no longer affiliated with the Ocelots. He does his own thing with the Keepers. For material, gold again, because the way I see it, he's wearing relics of his old empire, you know, kind of mementos of home. For the left arm, nothing. For the right arm, nothing, because I felt like it would ruin it if we took away that golden sheen. For the standards, nothing again. And for the back, I went with the Tenochtitlan Valor 3, which you get from the Hunt of the Ocelotl event pass. And that's it. It really does come down to this idea that sometimes less is more. Oh, I feel like when all you do is you just throw a bunch of different things at the character, like you just throw all these crazy paint patterns and symbols and stuff, while it can look cool sometimes, other times it can actually ruin it, I feel like. So I do think that sometimes you just got to go with less, you know. But for the color scheme, check this out. You want the Artful Fable color scheme, which you get from the Year 8 Season 4 Battle Pass, the Artful Fable. It gives a beautiful plumage to the feathers that he's wearing, and I think it just really comes together. Now, you'll notice that unlike most of the other characters, he doesn't have a green motif. I didn't want them all to have a green motif, and again, he doesn't fully prescribe to their order's beliefs, but he does think that they're kindred spirits, and he wants to support them. Now, for the feats. I kept all of his default because he doesn't exactly lean into everything they are. He's still an Ocelot at heart. For his executions, I went with New World Greetings, Lethal Pounce, Blow Dart Barrage, and Skewered Prey. Although I might trade out Skewered Prey with Ripsaw, because I think honestly that's a little bit better. Might go ahead and do that. Alright, so I chose those executions because again, he's an Ocelot at heart. I went with Aztec Fury and Defiant No, I thought that I thought that I changed that out to Death Whistle. Huh, didn't save that. Anyway, for combat, Tezcatlipoca's favor. I need to be careful how I say things. And Battle Ready. I might have given him Spear Spin or Hunter's Menace, but again, lack of steel. Signature, I went with Stalker's Perch, but I would also go with Big Cat Person to go along with his natural connections. And then for effects, I don't have any on him. Again, the real thing I want to stress about The real thing I want to stretch about this guy is that he is an Ocelot at heart. He's just an Ocelot who agrees with the Keepers and wants to help them. So he's not going to have a lot of their whole color motifs, execution motifs, effect motifs. He's just a supporter. He is an outsider trying to give them support where he can, if that makes sense. So that is Ocelotl. Let me know if you guys like him, if you guys think that he's good, and we will move on to the last one of the Keepers. Here she is. Meet Renata. Now, Renata, if you guys know my theory on the Virtuosa, you know that the way I look at them is this. Ilaria, the first Virtuosa, may have been training women to become Virtuosa, but she doesn't actually care about them. She cares about having an audience. She likes having pupils and disciples who want to learn from her because she wants people to praise how cool she is and basically say, oh, you're the bestest ever, Ilaria. Aren't you just the coolest? And so she wanted these women to be around her. This girl came from hell just like Ilaria did, okay? She is a girl who grew up with nothing, basically an orphan. Well, not really an orphan because her parents were alive. They just didn't care about her. You see, the way they look at the world, you know, you either live or you die, and they are living, and she's got to figure out how to do that herself. So she basically had to scrounge and figure things out herself. She found Ilaria, thought, hey, woman just like me, struggled through life just like me. We're gonna team up. She's gonna teach me how to fight. We're gonna take on the world together. Found out very quickly that Ilaria was looking out for herself just like her parents did, and realized, you know what, I don't know anything to this woman. I'm going to go do my own thing. And so she takes off to go do her own thing. But the problem is she's wandering on her own and still needs people to help and support her. Because here's the biggest problem I have with the Virtuosa. When you're an army of one, it means you're always outnumbered. And I don't care how cool you think that you are with your sword. In a world at war, you can't afford to be outnumbered. And so she comes across the Keepers, and at first she's just wanting, like, you know what, I'm just using these people. They're just people who have a lot of love for the natural world, and I'm going to team up with them just so that I can stay alive. But over time, she does build a brother and sisterhood with them, sort of a connection with them. And as time has gone on, she's still skeptical about what they believe. She's still a little bit of an agnostic in terms of how they see the world. But at the same time, she owes them because they took her in when she needed it. And she can't just run out. A part of her just says, I can't just run out on these guys. I could, maybe I should, but I just can't bring myself to do it. And as time has gone on, she has slowly grown more and more connected to the group. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you the full disclosure. She's not finished. I wanted to share her with you because I had started her, but she is not finished. I will share with you what I have. I have built her using the Virtuosa helm, the Duelante alternate chest, and the Esperata alternate arms. That is her armor set. And I gave her the Cheerful Blossom blade, hilt, and guard. So you'll want those for the paint, but for the armor and weapon set, those I have finished. For the traits, I gave her the light skin color. For chest and back, I gave her Lasting Flower, which you get right away. No symbol, no embossing. No, for the ornament, I went Fairy Wings, and I do apologize. If you did not get the Fairy Wings mythic outfit for Virtuosa, it was a limited time thing, so you may not have access to it anymore, and that means you missed out on this, and I do apologize. If you want another one, you can go with the Mantodea Ars Moriendi Elite outfit, Mantis looking one, or the Virtuosa's Poise, which you should have gotten from owning the Virtuosa Hero offer, so either one of those would work. For material, Emerald. Obviously. For left arm, I went with Hooked Arrowhead, which you get from Reputation 9 level 6. For right arm, I went with Cat's Eye level 1. Oh, I do deeply apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I went too fast. Notice for the symbol, you want the Rose, which you get from Reputation 2 level 9. I apologize, I almost skipped that. From the right arm, you want the Cat's Eye 1 paint pattern. No symbol in the embossing is going to be Paisley 2, which you get from Reputation 22, level 20. Okay? All right. Now, legs. You want the vertical halves paint pattern, and you want the Virtuosa's Poise 1 symbol. All right? For the standards, no paint pattern, but you want the Fairy Wings 2 symbol. And again, if you did not get the mythic outfit, you do not have this. And then finally for the color scheme, I went with Memento Mori, which you get from Ars Moriendi Elite outfit. I think it looks really, really good on her. But that is about as far as I've gotten in building her. Her feats are going to be pretty much the same as any other Virtuosa because she was trained by them. Her executions, I have not had the time to really go through and fix any of them up that I would like. There are a few that I have not bought that I'd like to give her, but I cannot yet because, again, steel. I have not given her what I really want to give her is I want to give her Peekaboo for one of her combat symbols. And I like giving her all bark, no bite, and take a bow. I think those work well, although I'm tempted to give her Shamisen Song, but again, I do not have the steel. I also thought about giving her, where was it? Mamma Mia. I thought about giving her that one too, but again, no steel. For signatures, she has Revel and Victory, and honestly, I think that works just fine. I think that works fine. I might also give her Caught in a Web, just saying. And then for effects, I went with Fairy Wings because they do fit well in terms of her presence as a forest walker. And plus, it just looks good. Gives this Tinkerbell kind of vibe. But if you don't like it, I totally understand why you'd want to take it off. I can totally get why you'd want to remove it. Now, with all that said, once I get her fully finished and figured out, I may make another video and show you how I finished her lore. But that is Renata. So, what do you guys think of Renata? In fact, now that we're done with all of them, what do you guys think of this Keepers group? Do you like the characters you've seen? Would you add one of your characters to the Keepers? Who would you want to add? Why would they want to be there? How would you design them? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Are there any other characters in my cast that you think should be in the Keepers? Like maybe Kawakami Hayate. You think he should be a member even though he's a spirit? Let me know down in the comment section. Would love to hear all your thoughts on all of this. Thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.